Something that I get asked a lot is when someone's talking about a loved one that has passed away, and they will say, because they don't feel like they can connect with them, so they'll ask me a question like, is my mum happy that I sold her home? Or is my dad happy that um, I'm doing something which is against his will? Or there's this feeling of, because a human can only remember their relative from how they remember them and how they acted. So they think once somebody has died, that a soul is exactly the same as they were on earth. I think the human ego, when it doesn't understand what energy is, and it doesn't understand souls, and it doesn't understand what it's like to return to the afterlife, there can be a comfort in thinking that our loved ones look exactly the same on the other side, and that they're walking around somewhere and they still have the same opinions as they did when they were alive. And that's something that the human creates because they don't understand how it actually really is. And that's fine, because if it brings you a sense of comfort to think like that, I've heard people say that they think someone's up there having a party, or someone's up there, playing football or barracking for their team, or it's a comfort for those that are living to think that way. But because I've been there, because I have been as a soul and seen what it's like, it's really, really hard for me to see it that way, the way that a lot of people see it, because I see it a totally different way, how souls are just energy. Now, I remember saying that when I was out of my body and I was walking down the hallway and I looked to my side, I saw every single soul that had any impact on my living life. But they did not look like they did not look like they did when they were alive. They were just balls of energy, but I knew the role they played. So it was like I could look over there and I saw all these balls of energy, but I knew that that one was my mum, and that one was my grandmother, and that was my grandfather, and that was one of the teachers that was at my school. That was my best friend's dad. They were all there, but they were not looking like they do in human form. That it was a ball of energy that represented that existence, and I knew it. So I just got a ding on my phone and it just threw me. Let me get back to what I'm talking. Let me pause for a moment. Also have to remember that a, a human lives many, many versions of themselves. Okay, so a human has their baby version, their child version, their teenager version, their young adult version, their 30s version of themselves. When they get married, they become a different version of themselves. When they have children, they become a different version of themselves. You're remembering a version of that person as they impacted on you. So if it was a parent that passed, you're remembering the version of them as the parent to you. If it was a sibling that passed, you're remembering the version of them as the role of sibling to you. If a child passed, you're remembering your version of being a parent to that, and that child being your child. If it was a grandparent that passed, you're remembering the version of how they were as a grandparent to you. So you're only remembering the version of them from when you were born to when they passed. You don't know your grandparents when they were children. You don't know your grandparents when they were teenagers or when they were just young and getting married. So a lot of the times when I'm doing a reading on somebody and connecting to the life that they lived, they will show me really, really fun times in their life when they were 18 years old. But you can't, unless you've heard a story or something, you can't clarify that because you weren't here yourself. You weren't born, because you don't know that version of them, and there's a different version of people in the workplace that you may not see at home, like a grandparent that you have a fond memory of growing up, being at their house and growing up, and making things with them and doing things, or holidaying with them, or Christmas with them. That's all the memories that you have, but you don't know the versions of them in the workplace, or the versions of them with their friends behind closed doors when your kids are in bed, and what adults get up to. So you only know a very small part of that person's life. So um, I think that's why it's hard when somebody says, is my mum happy? A soul is a higher consciousness. A soul doesn't have an ego. So when you're here today, you have a brain, and your brain does all your thinking. So you're deciding, I'm going to sell my home, or I'm going to sell the family home. Let's say the family home's been in the family for, 3 generations, and you're alive, and you're deciding, I'm going to sell the family home. That's coming from your ego, from your thinking brain. The souls don't have a brain. Remember, when we die, all the physical stuff is gone. It's a higher consciousness. It's not, your brain doesn't go with you into the afterlife. It's a higher consciousness. Higher consciousness has no judgment and a total acceptance. So yes, doesn't matter what decision you're going to make, they're not going to get angry. If you had a fight with somebody, or you didn't speak to a relative, I've heard this a lot too. A lot of people say, I don't want to die and have to go and meet my, relative that caused me hell on this earth. They are higher consciousness. That is your ego thinking that. When you die, your ego stays here. Your ego gets buried in the ground or cremated with your body. Your ego does not go to the afterlife. So that thought will not be there. It will not exist. You see, the ego stays here in the physical world. The ego is not there. So when you die, you go back to love. The people that hurt you in their life, they're already in the space of love. You go back to love. Everything is love. There is an understanding that you can't even realize here, because our ego gets hurt. Our ego like tries to protect us, and it feels hurt feelings. That doesn't exist on the other side. So it's not even a thing. There's no hate there. There's no, oh my goodness, there's that soul over there. It's not like going to a party where you're meeting somebody, seeing somebody that you don't like here. Egos do not exist on the other side. So none of that is relevant. That is just the way your human ego is thinking while you're alive. So yes, your relatives are happy with any choices that you make. They watch you in a fondness of love. And you can ask for guidance. They can give you guidance, but they're not going to control your life. They're not going to step in and tell you what to do. They might have, as when they're alive, their ego may have been very controlling. But as a higher consciousness without an ego, there's no need to control you. There's no need to tell you what to do. They will just watch you go through your own life journey.